Every day is a new beginning. So I was doing a little research this morning and I thought it was interesting and I thought I'm going to jump on here and share this with other people, see what other people think about it. Because if you look at some of the things that happened in the past in Bible prophecies and the things we're going through today, it just seems like a lot of this is on repeat. See, history, they say it doesn't always repeat, but it often rhymes. So, a long time ago, after the King Solomon passed away, if you take a look in the Bible, the kingdom of Israel was torn. And a kingdom that once stood united under God, it stood divided. It was one of the greatest tragedies in the Bible. It actually was brother against brother from these kingdoms. From the north came Ephraim. He was proud, rebellious, and powerful, that tribe was. And from the south, Judah, with its faithful lineage. And it was led by the house of David. But it was not just about the two nations. It was about the heart of the two brothers. Ephraim was the younger son of Joseph. Remember, Joseph got sold in slavery and he had two children. Ephraim was the younger son of Joseph. And he was promised greatness from Joseph's dad when they came during the famine. And with his pride and it growing and growing, his ambition knew no bounds. He turned away from his brother Manasseh and the land that was promised to them by God. Now Manasseh walked a different path. His legacy was marked by struggle, and though he was not as great as Ephraim in his greatest time, he held the line of faith, the line of Judah, and the line of David. Now, King Ahuz of Judah was facing an imminent attack from Ephraim and Aram and found himself in despair. And what hope did Judah have? Manasseh's line. But God spoke through his prophet Isaiah, and he said, "For the head of Aram is Damascus, and the head of Damascus is only risen, and the head of Ephraim is Samaria, and the head of Samaria is only Remaliah's son. Within 65 years, Ephraim will too be shattered to be a people." So God's message here was clear. Don't fear the man, for these are temporary kingdoms. I will be the one to judge them. Now, Ephraim was blessed with strength and power, and he was seeking to conquer his own brother Judah. But this was not just a physical battle, it was actually a spiritual rebellion. Ephraim turned to idols and forsaked the Creator. And God warned them, Ephraim is joined to idols. Leave him alone. And so they marched against their brother Judah and against their brothers seeking to set up their own kingdom, ignoring God's plan. But while Ephraim, or I want to say Ephraim because I'm thinking of Bitcoin, but Ephraim attacked with pride and aggression, Manasseh remained humble before the Lord. He knew the truth that the power was not in his might, but in his obedience to God. Now stick with me because this is interesting and it ties to what we're going through today with Britain, specifically in the UK and America. But God had a greater plan. The division of the past would not last forever. He promised that eventually the two would become one again. "Behold," says the Lord, "I will take the stick of Joseph, which is the hand of Ephraim and the tribes of Israel, his fellows, and will put them with him, even with the stick of Judah, and make them one stick." This division, this betrayal of the brothers would one day be healed. God's kingdom would reunite. His people, once broken, would then be whole in him. So fast forward to today. As we see similar tensions, the nations once united in their faith, when we actually see now divided by pride and ambition, called Ephraim. Could Ephraim be Europe? Well, some of the Bible scholars, I've actually read lots of commentaries and so forth, that yes, it could be Europe. And Manasseh could be America. See, at the height of Britain's power, it was much more bigger than America. I mean, it ruled most of the world. It was bigger than the Roman Empire. But remember, the prophecy said it would last less than 65 years. Well, that queen only lasted like 63, so some scholars say it was a fulfillment. But we can see the tension still, regardless if Ephraim is Europe and Manasseh is America, and these are part of the 10 lost tribes of Israel. Well, then we could see where there's still a clash between the two brothers. So the good news is God's plan has restoration and the ability to, and it will not fail. One day the kingdoms on earth will be united under the rule of Jesus Christ, which of course will be the Prince of Peace. In the final kingdom, there will be no division. Brother will no longer fight, Ephraim or Manasseh. Once at war, will be once again together, and the brokenness will be healed. And until that day, we are called to be faithful and to seek unity and trust the promises of God. I believe that. I really do believe that. But I still think that the wages of sin is death, and to fall away from God, there's blessings and curses. If you look at Deuteronomy, and there's blessings that America has definitely had, there's blessings that Britain has definitely had. But every time they fall away from God and God's rules, whether you like it or not, He's the creator and He set rules of blessings and curses. And it's like once those nations fall away, that's what they get. So at this current time, as I'm making this video, where if you're anywhere in America, you're seeing what they call the bloodbath, which is happening in the stock market today. Now I think we're about 25% down in the last 2 days. If today ends around 1600 down on the Dow, we're going to be about 25% down from what we were in the Great Depression. So like the Great Depression, one day we went down like 13%, and then the next day we went down about 12%. Now, yesterday we were down about 3 to 4%, and today, currently, last time I looked, another 4%. So that's what I mean by we're about down 25%. Overall, trillions of dollars, we're down way more because we were up so much higher. But when I was reading and studying this and looking at Manasseh and Ephraim and their blessings that they had, and I mean, it is true, Britain has been, I mean, they affected so much of what we see in the world today. And then America basically came to power after the war, and then they kind of took over that top position. And today we see with these tariffs, it seems like there's a cold type war going on with China and America today. And that's what we're seeing with these tariffs. It's like, see, if you were growing up in America in 1950, and I know not everybody listening did do that, but if you did, you know that America was the manufacturing hub. They created most of the products. I think it was over 30% of all global products was made right here in America. Probably, I think it was actually like 37% of global products. So they were making their textiles, they were making their cars, they were making all the things that go with our cars. But then, like the video I made yesterday, they joined NAFTA, and that would have, and then Nixon took us off the gold standard. And then China joined the World Trade Organization. And so what all of that did, if you were a kid of the 70s and 80s, you were like the last generation of still having some of your parents work at factories. Most parents today work in service industry jobs, because what happened is we traded our manufacturing jobs, outsourced them. So because they could get cheaper labor in other countries, including Mexico, Canada, Europe. And then what they did is sold us a bunch of cheap crap. Literally, we became 70%. Think of this, guys. 70% of our GDP actually comes from us consuming. Now, you might say, that's fine. I'm fine being a consumer. Who doesn't like shopping? The problem is, if you look at our debt, we are not consuming on just excess money that we have laying around. A lot of people are in debt. They're consuming from debt. And the Bible is very clear as well that the borrower is servant to the lender. So what that trade did is actually made us modern day slaves, which is why, people feel like they go to work and they work and work and work and it just repeats and they get nowhere. People can't afford a home. People can't afford anything. And I know I've heard it. I've heard other people. I know that I've struggled to get out of debt personally. So I started listening to like Dave Ramsey many, many years ago because I saw that debt was it was biblical. We should not be in debt. We should not be a consumer nation. Now, did I know in my lifetime that this would all unfold and we would actually start seeing us in this kind of, it's not silent anymore, it's mainstream, right? If you just turn on the radio probably today or any news station, you're going to hear about the bloodbath on Wall Street, because here we are. It's almost like we're playing Chicken Little with China. China's like, I'm a manufacturing hub and I send you all your goods. And we're like, we don't want the goods anymore. We want to be manufacturing our own stuff because it's not a safe, secure nation if you're relying on all these other nations to provide your stuff. So we want our stuff back. We want out of the World Trade Organization. No matter how you feel about it, this is what's happening. And I don't know if my listeners like one president group over another. I'm not really sure. Or maybe a lot of you are just right in the middle. But I think we all agree that if we have children and we have grandchildren, we would suffer a little bit for them to have a future. And I think that's where we're at, because otherwise, if something doesn't get done, and I think universally, basically, everybody agrees something has to be done, because things, especially we saw with the lockdowns, things just ain't good. Like when you can't get toilet paper and people start fighting over toilet paper, that's a problem. So something has to be done. I think that we should pray for our leaders, no matter who our leaders are, regardless. We should pray that they're listening to God and seeking God. But I don't know where you guys stand on that, but I do think that Bible prophecy and Bible history is really important, because God don't change. He's the same today, yesterday, and forever. And so if we can look back at these stories and see that it's just rhyming, it's rhyming. And if America doesn't change and doesn't turn back to be more morally in line with God, then I don't think nothing's going to help it. And if it does, then just like in this story of the two brothers and Joseph's children, when they were fixing to have it out, God said, basically, humble yourself and I'll provide for you. And so I think that's what I would want to leave as an encouraging message to all of you today, is humble yourselves. Humble yourselves, whether you hate the people in charge of our country. They're in charge and none of it surprised God. And we should pray that everybody, including our leaders, hear God, listen to God, and that God protects his people. And we should humble ourselves and know that he's our source. And that's what I have today. Do you guys have anything to add to that? Not a lot of comments. Thank you guys for stopping by. Let's see. Okay. Some crazy comment, but hey, that's fine. Whatever you want to put. I'm just trying to connect with you guys and see what you guys think today about the tariffs, about Do you think that history's repeating? Do you think it has anything to do with Bible prophecy? Do you personally even read the Bible? Do you think any of this is possible? Um, just seeing what you guys think. Thought I would check out the good old YouTube, put on a video and do a live and say hi to you guys. If you've not subscribed, please do so. Thumbs it up so other people can find the video. Just a good conversation because I really don't know what else could be done. Personally, I don't think it's going to be an easy ride. I really don't think it's going to be an easy ride. I think that anytime you change from a consumer nation to a manufacturing nation, it's not going to be easy. Anytime you sell that you have to go shopping to keep the economy alive, and you have to borrow to infinity and beyond when credit cards, some of them are over 30% interest, which blows my mind. When you start telling your people that debt is dumb and, if you can't buy it cash, then you don't need it. Once you start doing that, it's going to take a little while and it's going to be kind of painful. And I remember 2008, it was not a walk in the park for so many people. So many businesses closed up. But do you guys even know how many businesses today that we actually shop at show no profit? The businesses themselves are in debt. The country's in debt, the businesses are in debt, the individual people are in debt. Something has to change. And I think we need to be a praying people. Somewhere our ancestors, somewhere, especially if you were born and raised right here in America and your ancestors came from America, then this was Judeo-Christian values. That's what this nation was built on. Whether people like that or not, that's what it was built on. And I think we need to be a praying people again. And if you're listening to any of my videos, then you guys know that I believe that. And I don't think we're going to make it through without that. But I think we have to have a change of heart. It starts in our homes. It starts with us individually. And then it affects our politicians. It affects our nation. It affects our world. And we don't need to just consume everything. We need to live with purpose and actually create stuff of value. And I think it starts with connecting to our Creator, because we can only do what we see our Father do. And I don't think God was a consumer. He was a creator. So, all right. I guess that's it. Thanks for hearing me ramble. Thanks for jumping on here, spending a few minutes. I appreciate every one of you. And I'll talk to you in the next video.